Now, the energy crisis has deepened today because another coal-fired generating unit has failed in New South Wales' Hunter Valley, and plans to fire up another unit in Victoria's Latrobe Valley have been delayed. So aluminium smelters in both states have downscaled their operations to try to protect energy supplies. Just another costly and damaging consequence of our energy chaos. We still don't know what the federal or state governments will do to fix this, as decades of Liberal and Labor policy to phase out coal in favour of renewables is coming home to roost. We now have the ridiculous situation where Greenpeace, of all people, Greenpeace has put out a statement complaining about the way AGL is running its ageing and therefore sometimes unreliable coal-fired generators. Of course, Greenpeace says AGL should switch to renewables. But that's the very push that's cut the profitability of coal and removed any incentive for investments and upgrades. And renewables can't fix the problem. We need dispatchable power, like coal-fired electricity. Instead, we've got intermittent renewables and increasingly old and inefficient coal generators being run down. The worst of both worlds. Despite this chaos, despite meeting with our Prime Minister in Sydney last night and today, in the middle of an energy crisis caused by ideologically driven climate policies, New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern is encouraging Australia along its climate activist path.
New Zealand is heartened and welcomes the ambition that has been expressed by the new government here in Australia, because it is good for our region and good for the world when we work collaboratively on this extraordinary challenge. The Pacific region has listed climate change as its #1 threat. And that is not out of symbolism, that is out of the reality that right now we already see the considerable effects of coastal erosion, of severe weather events, and of displacement in our backyard. So it's incumbent on us to do our bit.
What a load of rot. It's all about symbolism. Because fact number one, global emissions are still rising and will continue to rise no matter what Australia and New Zealand do. And fact number two, even a New Zealand university, the University of Auckland, has found that islands and atolls in the Pacific, in places such as Kiribati and Marshall Islands, and across in the Maldives in the Indian Ocean, well, their land size has grown by up to 8% over recent decades, despite sea level rises. Still, it's easy for Ardern to get all sanctimonious about climate action. Her country hasn't been cutting emissions. It's been increasing them, even though they're chockers with hydroelectricity. And the Kiwis have exempted all of their agricultural emissions. That's more than 40% of their total. They've exempted them from their net zero target. Sadly, Anthony Albanese is still caught up in all this jingoism too. Despite the power bill pain and power supply crisis he's currently presiding over.
Could I say this, that when I have met with international leaders, including Prime Minister Ardern, it's like Australia has gone out of the naughty corner. We've been in the naughty corner for 9 years, and the consequences of that we are feeling right now with the energy crisis that is here in this country, with the failure to invest in renewables, with the failure to actually deliver on the change that is required. And the result of that is pressure on cost of living, less jobs, less economic activity as a result of the failure to invest, which is a direct result of the fact there's been no policy certainty when it comes to climate change.
It's frightening to see national leaders so gormless on climate, doubling down on policies that create energy insecurity and real hardship for their citizens, while seemingly failing to understand the simple arithmetic that demonstrates all their actions can't possibly deliver any discernible benefit to the environment. When global emissions increases dramatically exceed our emissions cuts, then simple maths tells you it's all pain for no gain. I mean, if you could count to 3, you could work this out.
Concrete solutions that make a difference. Thanks very much.
Oh, I believe we've got one last New Zealander. I'm so sorry. Is that correct, or have I miscounted? I would get in a lot of trouble if we didn't have even numbers from each side.
I think it's 3 each.
Oh, was it 3 each? Forgive me, we're done. Excellent.
Thank you very much. I've just been through an election so I can count.
They got there in the end, didn't they? Spare us. Spare us the climate virtue signalling. Please, someone, deliver the reliable and affordable energy our whole country depends on.